In Toronto, Canada, there was a petty thief in Chinatown who stole for 8 years, yet no one dared to touch him. Then, a Chinese shop owner stepped out and bravely caught the villain, only to be arrested by the police. Who is the Canadian law really protecting? This is a case where a Chinese owner challenged Canadian law. This habitual thief lurked around for many years. His real name, Anthony Bennett, was not widely known, but his alias, the Flower Pot Bandit, was familiar to every shopkeeper, big and small. This guy was thin and frail, staggering whether on foot or on bike, likely hollowed out by drugs. His technique was incredibly simple and shameless. He'd spot a flower pot he fancied outside a shop, snatch it and run off, then sell it for a few bucks at a pawn shop. Although with such simple techniques, he managed to steal from shops of all sizes in Toronto's Chinatown. And he did it come rain or shine, much to the annoyance of the shop owners. The Chinatown shopkeeper couldn't do anything about him. Reporting to the police was futile, because this kind of petty theft wasn't considered urgent enough for immediate response. From the time a call was made to the police to the time they showed up, it typically took between an hour and a half to 3 hours. In essence, the police didn't care much about such minor issues. Now, you might wonder, could the shop owners take matters into their own hands and catch the thief, delivering him directly to the authorities? Unfortunately, under Canadian law, this is likely illegal. Why? Because the conditions required by the citizen arrest clause were numerous and hard to meet. Simply put, ordinary Canadian citizens only had the right to arrest the suspect when the crime was occurring. For example, even if someone had stabbed another person, you could only intervene if they still had the weapon and were covered in blood. Once the knife was dropped and the blood washed off, you had no right to intervene. Specifically regarding shoplifting, if the thief was still inside the store and you saw them putting something in their pocket or even hiding it in their underwear, as long as they hadn't passed the checkout counter, they could potentially claim that they intended to pay for it. This possibility served as the crucial premise. You couldn't definitively say that they were stealing. Furthermore, once the person stepped outside of the store, it's already past tense and it's no longer in progress, and thus it does not meet the requirement for citizen's arrest. It was incredibly difficult to pinpoint the right moment, almost like timing it with a stopwatch. Now you understand why there's often a significant distance from the checkout to the exit in big supermarkets like Walmart. It's actually for the security guards to catch thieves, because only within this area can they legally apprehend someone. Of course, for quick reacting and skillful habitual thieves, this distance is useless. As soon as they step outside the door, it's game over. And for those cramped shops in Chinatown, even if you brought in the best detectives and policemen, it wouldn't make a difference. With such a law, it's no surprise that the Flower Pot Bandit stole recklessly for years without being stopped. If you can't guard what's inside the store, let alone the flower pots outside, it's easy pickings. Just like taking candy from a baby. This man became bolder with each theft. One Korean flower shop owner installed a camera outside to deter him. But within a day, the camera was gone. The last footage revealed a slim figure resembling Flower Pot Bandit in every way. Finally, the shop owner had to accept their misfortune and let things be. Just be cautious not to leave anything valuable outside. Until one day, a Chinese shop owner finally broke the cycle. That person was David Chen, the owner of the Lucky Moose Market. He had spent years working hard in Canada, saving up for this little shop, beginning a new chapter of immigrant life. Although called a supermarket, Lucky Moose was more like many other shops in Chinatown, just a small grocery store. When Chen acquired the shop, he heard about the Flower Pot Bandit, which seemed unbelievable to him. However, since taking over the shop, within a few months, many of the seasonal flowers and even fruits and vegetables placed outside of Chen's store were stolen by this persistent thief. The thief always struck within the busiest hours, ensuring no one would come out to catch him. On May 23, 2009, in the afternoon, just like any other day, the Flower Pot Bandit picked the biggest flowers from the entrance of Lucky Moose supermarket. It was part of a new batch of flowers, worth around 50 Canadian dollars. Upon discovering the theft, Chen immediately checked the surveillance footage, spotting a slim black man with a bike. Who else can it be? Unexpectedly, within an hour, the Flower Pot Bandit returned, nonchalantly attempting another round of theft. Furious, Chen approached him, tapping him on the shoulder and said, "Hey buddy, seems like you forgot to pay for the last flower." At that moment, the Flower Pot Bandit didn't utter a word, just bolted. As mentioned earlier, according to Canadian law, as soon as he took a few steps forward, it is as if he had a get-out-of-jail-free card. Most shop owners, despite having the courage and thoughts, wouldn't dare lay a finger on him. However, Chen refused to believe in his superstition. With one swift step, he charged forward and instructed his staff to call the police. The Flower Pot Bandit didn't get far before Chen caught him at the intersection. The thief, unwilling to give up, kicked and bit Chen. At this moment, two of Chen's assistants rushed over to help. Together, they used duct tape to bind the thief's hands and tossed him into the delivery van, preparing to deliver him to the authorities. This is trouble on a grand scale. Previously, when the police were urgently needed, they were nowhere to be found, but this time they suddenly appeared. Not because the store employees called to report a theft, but that another passerby reported a fight. When it comes to responding to fights, it's on a completely different level compared to theft. Chen's heart sank. He felt that the police weren't here to catch the thief, But the real situation is actually way worse than what he imagined. The police handcuffed Chen, his 2 employees, and then released the thief from the van. They arrested Chen on charges of kidnapping, using a weapon to assault someone, and unlawful detention, all because they found an 8cm utility knife in Chen's pocket as evidence of a weapon. Chen was speechless. He exclaimed, "But wait, I was unloading goods earlier. I had to open boxes. I never took it out when apprehending the thief." However, the mere existence of the small knife escalated Chen's charges to armed kidnapping, assault with a weapon, and unlawful confinement, each a serious offense. If convicted on all counts, the sentence will start from a minimum of 5 years, with no upper limit. Chen was dumbfounded. "I tried to do the right thing by catching a thief, and now I potentially ruined the rest of my life," he thought. Given the seriousness of the charges, Chen was detained for 24 hours before his first bail hearing. The court demanded a bail of $250,000 Canadian. If they couldn't come up with the money, Chen would remain in custody until the trial, which, considering the efficiency of Canadian courts, could take years, if not longer. The small business of Chen's family couldn't come up with such a large bail amount at once. Chen's wife had to turn to a specialized company in bail loans, borrowing the money at an 8% interest rate, just to temporarily secure her husband's release. The first thing Chen did upon release was to contact a lawyer, trying to find a way to dismiss each of the charges. But even the most skilled lawyer couldn't argue for his innocence. As mentioned earlier, a citizen's arrest must occur while the crime is in progress. From the moment the flower pot bandit stole the flower to the moment Chen apprehended him, 52 minutes had passed. Based on this, Chen, no matter how justified, had broken the law. What's more, the entire incident was captured on surveillance footage, ironclad evidence that left no room for argument. They advised Chen to plead guilty, negotiate with the prosecutors, and hope for a reduced sentence, but Chen refused to accept it. What's the point of the law if I, the victim of repeated thefts, end up in prison for trying to catch the criminal? This is outrageous. This law needs to be challenged. The seasoned lawyers scoffed at his idea, questioning how a mere immigrant small business owner like him could change the law, with no money, no power, and no influence, having never even attended a Canadian university. How could he possibly challenge a law that had remained unchanged since the founding of Canada? But Chen was determined to do it. Even if it was like an insect trying to shake a tree, he was determined to give it all. He reached out to the local MP, hoping to propose a motion to amend current laws, altering the relevant clauses to allow for crimes in progress to be stopped within a reasonable time. This subtle change in wording would grant store owners enough freedom to defend their rights. It was a world of difference compared to the previous stringent conditions. However, this subtle change in wording faced tremendous pushback. A police spokesperson explicitly stated that relaxing the citizen's arrest will lead to more violence and vigilantism. If even such a professional law enforcement agency could make mistakes, what about ordinary people? Earlier, there was an Indian restaurant owner who had been stolen by a gang nearby for several years. He couldn't take it anymore and fought back. He saw someone suspicious lurking around his restaurant's parking lot, and without hesitation, he grabbed a bottle of chili powder from his kitchen and sprayed it all over the person's face. Later investigation revealed that the person's eyes and nasal membranes were burned by the chili powder. Yet, the person had never stolen anything from the restaurant, so it was a mistake. The restaurant owner was later dubbed the Chili Avenger by the media, convicted of minor assault, sentenced to 6 months in prison, and fined $1,000. To the police, Chen's actions were no different from the Indian restaurant owners. One was already sentenced, so why the double standard? However, there was an unspoken reason. The flower pot thief was a black man. At the time, tension between the police and the black community were high, with every few years seeing a surge in violence. In this sensitive climate, police had to carefully consider their action toward black individuals, fearing they might unintentionally ignite unrest. How could they allow ordinary citizens to stir up such a hornet's nest? The prosecutors quickly pressed charge against him, showing zero tolerance and seeking the maximal sentence possible. The police aimed to make an example out of him. To the grocery store owner and others like him, it was a wake-up call. They had been doing business honestly, but with their lack of legal knowledge, they were vulnerable. They realized that their world could be turned upside down. Unexpectedly, many similar store owners, not just Chinese but also Vietnamese, Korean, Indian, and white, couldn't bear it anymore and stood up. They provided surveillance footage showing almost daily thefts in their store. Under current laws, they were helpless to stop thieves, leading to significant losses over time. To them, Chen was simply doing something that everyone wanted to do but lacked the courage to. Suddenly, everyone rallied behind Chen. Within just 24 hours, the Toronto government website received over 8,000 signatures demanding the cancellation of criminal charges against Chen. Furthermore, convenience stores, flower shops, and fruit stands near Chinatown began staging strikes for several hours each day as a means to raise social awareness in support of Chen. Facing public pressure, the prosecutors in Chen's case proposed dropping the charges of armed kidnapping and unlawful detention, instead pursuing a charge of minor assault. This meant that if Chen pleaded guilty, he would face a maximum of 3 years in jail. and with good behavior, he could be eligible for parole in just over a year. Chen's response was firm. I have done nothing wrong, and I will not plead guilty. So, a year and a half after the incident, Chen finally stood in court, defended by his lawyer on the grounds of innocence. At this point, although there were motions put forward by some MPs to amend the citizen's arrest clause, the legal process itself had not been completed. This meant that under existing legal provisions, Chen's actions remained in a legal gray area. If he and his lawyer couldn't convince the jury, prison awaited him. However, when the key player and main witness for the prosecutor, the flower pot thief Anthony, the courtroom erupted in astonishment. It turned out that just days before the trial, he had been arrested again, this time for theft. Over the past year, he had continued his criminal activities, escalating from petty thefts like stealing potted plants to breaking and entering. Even with his court date looming, unable to afford bail, he had remained in custody until being brought in to testify. With this dramatic entrance by the prosecutor's witness, the prosecutor's hopes dwindled. Furthermore, under cross-examination by Chen's lawyer, the flower pot thief slipped up, admitting that after stealing flowers from the market, he only made $10 selling them, not enough for his habits, so he planned to return for more, only to be caught by Chen. Chen's lawyer argued that the thief's return to the scene with intent to steal again constituted a continuation of the same crime, committed for the exact purpose, at the same location, even if there was a gap of 52 minutes. Thus, from the initial theft to Chen's catching of the thief was all of an ongoing theft, and this would meet the requirements for citizen arrest. Chen's actions were deemed reasonable and lawful. The jury took less than 2 hours to acquit Chen. The following day, prominent in Toronto newspaper was not only a relieved smile from Chen, but also a bold headline: Justice. Though Chen had escaped imprisonment, the law remained unchanged. The process of amending laws in Canada was lengthy, requiring readings, committee reviews, further readings, and ultimately Governor General's signature. Any snag along the way could derail the process, and if there was a change in government during this time, everything might need to start over. For ordinary citizens like Chen, it was possible that they might not live to see the day when the law was finally revised. In fact, Lucky Moose Bill, named after Chen's store, went under 4 readings in 2013, over 4 years after Chen's incident. However, this time accompanied by his lawyer, he traveled to Parliament Hill in Ottawa to personally testify for the bill. He expressed, "I'm just an ordinary immigrant. I do not wish to fight against the law, but I have to stand up to protect my interests. We just want to make a living for our family. I hope that what I'm doing is not just about changing a few words in the legal text, but about helping the law itself fulfill its duties properly." Finally, after 4 years of waiting, the entire Canadian Parliament heard the voice of an ordinary Asian citizen speaking in imperfect English. A few days after his testimony, then Prime Minister Stephen Harper made a surprise visit to the Lucky Moose Market in Toronto, promising to take a photo with the owner after picking out a few items. The Prime Minister's gesture signaled that Chen's long journey of legal reform was about to yield the desired results. In March of the same year, the Lucky Moose Bill was finally named as Bill C-26 and implemented. This bill allows citizens to make arrests within a reasonable time frame, if it is confirmed that the law enforcement will not and cannot arrive promptly. The primary objective during citizen arrest should be self-protection and to act within one's capabilities. Excessive force should be avoided.